Julie Gaertner. She's a graduate student here at UH-Hilo, and she is with the Tropical Conservation Biology and Environmental Science program. And she will be coming to us and giving us a talk on Koa Grower Survey. Julie, all yours.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that introduction. Good morning. I'm honored to be here today and to be part of this 2012 Koa Symposium. I'd like to thank all of you who participated in the survey. I'd like to invite those of you who haven't participated to join me over at the large topo map at 1 o'clock, and I'd be happy to take your information, acreage and elevation. I'll also have extra surveys over there and an email list if you'd like to complete the survey online. So then I'll compile all the data from today and then the data you're about to see, and we'll create a 2012 Koa database. So I'll begin with a couple of Koa distribution maps. These maps were provided by Paul in a 2009 publication, Koa Ecology and Silviculture. I also have a copy over there on the table by the topo map. The map on the left, it's hard to see the green, but in green is showing the Koa forested area as of 2006 across the main Hawaiian Islands. The brown lines are 500-meter contour lines. Currently, we have about 195,000 acres of koa on Hawaii Island. Maui has about 9,000 acres, Oahu about 7,000, and Kauai about 6,000 acres. The map on the right is showing current koa as of 1980, former and potential koa distribution. And these contour lines are 500 feet. The darkest here is current koa as of 1980. You can't see the contrast very well, but this lighter bit in here is the previous koa, but it's been cleared as of 1980. Now the black line around this surrounding area are the primary koa potential bearing areas. But we also have other potential koa bearing areas with this lighter line that's going all the way up here along the Hamakua coast. And I would argue that we could actually increase the potential koa bearing areas because based on these surveys, we have quite a bit of low elevation koa growing below 2,000 feet. So hopefully with the support of this survey, we can help to accomplish that goal, to increase the koa bearing areas. So now I'll begin with the survey results. I took 10 questions. I have 26 completed surveys. The first question, what are your goals for growing koa? So 50% responded with either timber investment or wildlife habitat. The remaining 50% were pretty equally split between it's the right thing to do, land beautification, and water quality and restoration. For a couple of the questions, I left space for people to write in answers that were not listed in multiple choice. So these write-in goals included seed production, cultural significance, erosion control, regeneration of residential lots, propagation methods, and hybrid testing and investment. Next, I collected acreage and elevation data. I had the most response for Hawaii Island with 26 responses. Of these, the largest group, 46%, are growing on 500 plus acres, and 32% are growing on less than 5 acres. 7% on 5 to 24 acres, 11% on 25 to 99 acres, and 7% above 6,000 feet. oh, excuse me, 4% on 100 to 499 acres. For elevation data, over here, 74% of people are growing between 2,000 and 6,000 feet. 7% are growing above 6,000 feet, and 19% are growing below 2,000 feet. So there's some of the data that would support potentially expanding our Koa growing at lower elevations, just based on these responses. Oops, we skipped Maui here. Okay, for Maui, I had 6 responses, but the trends were similar to Hawaii Island. So 33% of people are growing on 500 plus acres, and 50% on less than 5 acres, and 17% on 25 to 99 acres. For elevation data, 83% are growing between 2,000 and 6,000 feet, with the remaining 17% below 2,000 feet. So again, we have a pretty good percentage of people growing low elevation on Maui. For Oahu and Kauai, I only had 2 responses. But they were evenly split between 500 plus acres and less than 5 acres, with an even split between 4,000 to 6,000 feet and less than 2,000 feet. And then finally, for Molokai, I had 1 response at 500 acres, between 4,000 and 6,000 feet. So hopefully today, with all of you here today, we can increase these numbers on some other islands. Okay, now we're to the 4th question. Did you plant your koa or allow it to regenerate naturally? 41% planted, 15% allowed natural regeneration, and 44% managed for both. How was your koa established, and what was your seed source? So nobody purchased seeds, and 25% of the people didn't use seed, but instead used scarification. 35% picked the seeds themselves, 19% got it from a friend, and 21% purchased seedlings. Again, for this question, I left space for people to write in answers, and these responses included natural regeneration from volunteer plants, Mauna Kea seed source, refuge staff provided seed, and an unknown seed source. What's being done beyond the establishment phase? 48% use weed control. And of this 48%, 30% use chemical methods, and 18% use manual weed control. 14% do nothing, 16% fertilize, and 22% use pruning methods. How long have you been growing koa? The largest group, 35%, has been growing koa between 5 and 10 years. Second largest group, 27%, for over 20 years. 19% growing between 10 and 15, 8% between 2 and 5, and 11% less than 2. So we have a nice spread of all ages of koa growers, it seems. 8th question. Is it easy to get seeds, seedlings, technical assistance? 69% said yes. 31% said no. So we need to help get those people who said yes to help those that said no. Hopefully you can communicate today. Do you sell your koa wood or wood products? 81% do not. They said no. And 19% said yes. And finally, the last question. What are your constraints and limitations about growing koa? Unknown outcomes and costs were the 2 biggest constraints, accounting for 65% of the response. 3% were limited by legal questions, 15% by disease, and 17% by seed supply. There were several write-in responses, including the difficulty in harvesting the seed from the canopy because of the height, the endangered species safe harbor, pests, drought, the lack of genetic and best management practice research, time and distance, and a lack of political support for Koa restoration and state forest reserves. So with this, I'd like to thank you again for completing these surveys. Feel free to join me over here at the map and we can talk. I'd like to thank the Koa Symposium Committee for helping me through this whole process, Mike Robinson for bringing me on. It's been an amazing opportunity to work with Koa people and learn the Koa story. So thank you very much.